Welcome to United Way of King County's weekly live stream update. This week we'll be talking about homelessness and how the Chief Seattle Club has responded to meet the needs of their guests during COVID-19. Joining us today for a conversation are Nawishtamai Connor, Housing Services Director at the Chief Seattle Club, and Lisa Brooks, Impact Manager for United Way of King County. If you have questions for Nawishtamai or Lisa, please be sure to type them into the chat window and we'll try to get to all of them following the discussion. With that, I'll pass it over to Lisa to start us off.
Thank you, Jared. Hi, Nawishtamai. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's really good to see you. I'm really glad to be here with you today and have this conversation. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and talk to our viewers today about the incredible work that the Chief Seattle Club is doing. Just to give a little bit of background about this partnership, United Way has been working with Chief Seattle Club for several years now, starting with some of your housing services. So Chief Seattle Club is a Streets to Home partner. Streets to Home is a United Way program that helps people who are living outside or in shelters quickly be able to move into housing. United Way also supports the Coalition to End Urban Indigenous Homelessness, which is now a really thriving coalition doing some incredible work in advocacy around systems change and policy. Chief Seattle Club has also participated in our family resource exchanges and community resource exchanges, where we try to bring as many services as possible into one place on one day for people experiencing homelessness. Nawishtamai, why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of Chief Seattle Club and your mission and what the club offers its members day to day?
So thank you for the introduction. So our mission is to provide a sacred space to nurture, affirm, and renew the spirit of urban Native people. The history is very rich. So about 50 years ago, Father Talbot, he's seen, American Indians didn't have a place to go that was of their own within Seattle. And, it's strange because, Seattle is named after a chief and there was no place for American Indians to go at that time. So it started out as, handing out sandwiches, and then it grew, and over 50 years, here we are, we're building a new building next door, called the All Building, which is really exciting. It's going to be housing for American Indians that is based on income and working with elders and veterans. And, we're going to have different parts of it that's going to be for healthcare and jobs, and also our housing department as well. And it's all going to be connected. So it's really exciting, how big and thriving Chief Seattle Club has been. And, day-to-day services right now, pre-COVID, we had, everything under one roof. We have hot meals that we serve, breakfast and lunch. And then we have, the front desk, you can check your mail there. We have the circle room where, we hold memorials, we hold Red Road sobriety. We hold different groups there for AA, it's just like connecting our folks back to culture and connecting them to healing, and also connecting them to services, that they wouldn't get, if it's frustrating to go. I mean, even me, it's frustrating to go to some, services like Social Security office or, the DMV. So, we have the availability to, have an outreach DSHS worker there, an SSI lawyer that, works with our community, and different lawyers for like tenants' rights. And then our mental health, we have a mental health provider that comes in as well, and our nurses from Salem Health Board. And our housing department as well. So we have so many different things to help anyone experiencing homelessness within Seattle under one roof. But like now during COVID, it's changed a lot of things.
Thanks for sharing all of that. Hearing about the history is so inspiring, and it makes me really think about the resilience of the Native community, and that you're still here on this land and in the city of Chief Seattle, right? And serving the people the way that you know how to do. It really is an amazing community. I've gotten to be there several times. And as you mentioned, a wide variety of services offered there, both in-house and through partnerships. One of the things that is really unique, I think, about the Chief Seattle Club is that, of course, you have a focus on services, but really your value and your orientation and what's central to the organization is this idea of healing and culture, rather than just these sort of outcome-based measures or results and services. And when I think about what is the strength of your organization, I really think about that integrity of holding this value of healing, and that being really the starting point where everyone kind of works from at Chief Seattle Club. And I think that's really beautiful. You mentioned a little bit that things are looking a little bit different in these COVID-19 times. Could you share some more about what's happening today, right now, during COVID-19 at Chief Seattle Club?
Sure. So right now, we're open 7 days a week still, but we're serving food outside. We can only allow about 4 people in Chief Seattle Club at a time, so we can have some safe social distancing, and also so that they can connect to services, whether it's picking up a housing packet or calling Frank, one of our case managers, for a hotel voucher, or even picking up art therapy kits at the front and using the restroom, basic needs that we're supplying right now. And it's just not even to our community, it's the whole community within Pioneer Square. We're really working hard to, be good neighbors and, not just give food out to Chief Seattle Club members, but the whole community comes around, and it's really nice gaining rapport with everybody within Pioneer Square. We start our day about 7 in the morning, and we'll go out with a tray of coffee, and then we'll tell people like, good morning, it's good to see you, and hand out coffee to them to make them feel welcome. And then, we have less services, but I feel like we don't at the same time. We just adapted, differently, just like we have done for, hundreds of years, just like our ancestors did. So, seeing the ancestral leadership coming out through Chief Seattle Club has been really great.
Yeah, we've been hearing from a lot of different programs that do homeless services right now. And they've been saying some of the similar things that you're talking about, our other partners. So things like case management having to go completely virtual or phone-based, which can be really challenging, right? When you're used to that really relationship-based type of service. So this question of how do you continue to offer that maximum level of support and assistance with minimal contact, right? Or at a distance. And many of our partners are talking about an increased urgency of getting people who are outside inside. We all know that homelessness is a crisis for everyone who's experiencing it every single day. And the spread of this virus has really made that even more acute, has worsened it. And the need to get people inside to somewhere that they can practice that basic hygiene, washing their hands and staying clean and healthy and socially distanced is more important than ever. Many of the shelter programs we're working with are having to figure out how to spread people out. and finding new locations and increased costs as a result of that. We're also hearing so much about the need for rent assistance. And so this is kind of on the other side of how do we make sure that we can keep people in their homes right now so that when this is over, we do have a moratorium on evictions right now, but that's not going to last forever and people are still going to be behind. So how do we make sure that we're not that we don't end up with an influx into homelessness after this crisis. We've also been hearing about the use of motels, which you mentioned, which wasn't really happening just a few months ago. And I think that's been something really interesting to see and to think about. Again, just allowing people that space and that access to have a bed, to have a sink where they can wash their hands. We've been hearing amazing stories of the transformation that can happen within a person and having that stability and the dignity of a room of their own. And so it, you know, for me, it's making me think about what are the things that we're doing now that we actually need to keep doing, that we shouldn't go back from, that we're doing better at. And that we need to keep doing.
Yeah, I mean, within King County, we have about 15,000 people plus within the homeless system. I mean, homelessness is healthcare. I mean, when we think about, you know, when I think about my elders talking about homelessness, it wasn't a thing, you know, because you've seen people who are struggling as a community, you came together to try and take care of this person. And, you know, and even hotels right now, you know, getting our elders and our families off the streets and safe quarantining, you know, when we're thinking about that, we're also thinking about like, you know, eventually this is not going to last forever. So like, what are we going to do next? So we've been having our outreach workers going out there, filling out housing applications and figuring out, you know, what's the next steps? What are your goals? Because that's the whole part of this program. You know, it's Native-led human services, you know, to make sure that we're keeping in mind their story. We're keeping in mind that when we're listening to their story, that we're being thoughtful about it, because they have resiliency in coming to Chief Seattle Club and knowing that, you know, they've came to either their rock bottom or they came to a point in their life where they're like, well, I need, you know, certain services, and they have these services here. And what I like about that is we're setting people up so they can be successful. You know, Chief Seattle Club has one of the lowest recidivism rates, you know, for homelessness in King County. So it's really great that when we're being culturally relevant and we're, you know, housing people, we're making sure that we're not just housing them. We're making sure that, you know, we want to find out what your barriers were, you know, what tribe are you from? You know, tribal identity is so important because you have these systems in place that don't identify what tribe they come from. So if they're homeless out here and they're by themselves, you know, we wouldn't be able to call, you know, what tribe they're from. So it's really important for us to capture that data so we can be mindful of like contacting their family, contacting their tribe after, you know, they've moved on and they started their journey. So, and we try and give them any type of way to make them succeed in their housing by looking at their barriers, whether it be income, whether it be substance abuse or mental health or, you know, physical, or they need income and they need to be connected to SSI. We try to do all of those things before, you know, we house them, but in the process, we're still trying to house them. We're still filling out applications, but we're also just making sure that when they're housed, you know, we want you to be relaxed. You know, we want to do less invasive case management, but to come around like a community and see like, how are you enjoying it? You know, is there anything we can do to support you? You know, even at Chief Seattle Club, we don't even call our folks clients. We call them members because they're members of our community.
What are you hearing from your members these days about how they're doing in these times?
I feel like they're very strength-based. I heard a story today about a homeless single mother who's living in her car. And she contacted us, and our case manager, she reached out to her, and she's been homeless for a few months, and she hasn't reached out to us until now. And she's close to being housed, and she's also going to college, and she's working. She's doing all these great steps. So I feel like, our folks that are homeless, it's almost like jumping into what we know, what we've been through. I mean, this isn't the first pandemic that American Indians have gone through. So I think we have a lot of strength in our history that we continue to show in present day.
Mhm. That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story. It's really hopeful and really, really wonderful to hear that specific example. And I really appreciate about what you said about that this isn't new. I mean, if we think about the larger scheme of history, right, whether it's a virus or whether it's something else, these types of moments, these types of crises like we're in now, are really an opportunity to really show what we're made of. And I see so much of that happening right now, people caring for each other, checking in on each other, holding each other from a distance in the ways that they can. And for me, it's made me think about how, this crisis has brought this all out in us, but it's already in us. It's the way that we're acting. It's possible to act every day. It's possible to be grateful for grocery workers and frontline and, people on the front lines and all of that, and checking on our grandparents and all the things that we're doing every single day. So I really appreciate your perspective and sharing that what we're doing now, we can keep doing it next month. We can keep doing it in the fall. There's no reason why not. And we should be because it's possible. So yeah. I wanted to ask you, Nuishma, if you wanted to share anything. I know you do a lot of work around policy and systems, and if you wanted to share anything about that.
Yeah, so we're doing some great things with the Native organizations within King County. This year was the first year that we launched the American Indian Alaska Native Case Conferencing. And the case conferencing, for anybody who's watching and doesn't know what it is, it's basically anybody who gets into the homeless system, they go into the system and they get identified by vulnerability, and that vulnerability tool is the VI SPDAT. Unfortunately, American Indians didn't meet the racial equity benchmarks for those. So our big push was to make sure that we're being accounted for, because we get missed in a lot of data. So we started the American Indian Case Conferencing so we can work on our cases. We can work with the homeless, that are downtown that are experiencing it. So we can talk about their cases and as a community help support them, get them connected to what they need. And with that being said, we realized like the VI SPDAT doesn't work for us. It doesn't catch our vulnerability because it's too generalized. So we created the by name list for the American Indians and Alaska Natives, and it recognizes like historical trauma, mental illness, co-occurring disorders, domestic violence, all of those things, that unfortunately perpetuate within our communities, so we can help them. And also with that, trying to influence King County in the HMIS system to put tribal designation. So when we enroll people in the bigger system, we'll be able to see exactly who they are, because our identity is super important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's been incredible to watch the work, your work and the work of the coalition. I know that so many others at Chief Seattle Club, you're so involved in the direct services that are happening at your organization every day. And you also manage to do this policy work on top of it. So we know that, the direct services are what people need urgently on a day-to-day basis, and how we're going to get closer to where we need to go is this policy and systems and bigger picture work. So I really love that about about your work and the Chief Seattle Club and the other Native organizations. I think I have loved chatting with you, Nawishtamai. This has been so great. I loved hearing everything you had to say, and I've been learning so much. I think we can throw it back to Jared, who may have some questions for us from our viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We do have a couple. If you're watching and haven't entered your question, please do that now. C. Eder asks, are non-cash donations welcome, Nawishtamai? If so, what kind?
Oh, that's a great question. Like hygiene kits, we consistently go out and do outreach, whether it be encampments or sweeps that happen. We also go out to the hotel rooms to check on our elders and families, and they're always in need of stuff. Non-perishable food, even food needed we do food deliveries every Friday to our elders or elders who cannot leave their home because they're quarantining. So any of those things, are definitely a big need within Chief Seattle Club, as well as like tents or blankets, or any cleaning products too, because we sanitize every 15 minutes to make sure that, we're not spreading any germs and we're being safe for our community.
I think I heard you mention clothing yesterday too, right?
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Clothing as well. Our folks are always looking for clothing. Sweeps do happen, unfortunately, and their stuff gets lost or thrown away or stolen. So clothes is a big one.
Thank you. Alberto Romero asks, how has Native American culture helped Chief Seattle Club and your members throughout this crisis?
It's a great question. I think keeping us balanced, in our epigenetics, there was a lot of intergenerational trauma of, past wrongs that were, done by the government, and, with different viruses that's hit our communities and killed hundreds of thousands of people. Our culture has always kept us, grounded, and as it should. And Chief Seattle Club is very well known for that. We have our elder that comes out, Tuesday and Thursday, and he comes out and he sings and he prays for us, and he encourages our members and he talks with them. So it's enlightening, during this time. It may be a dark time to some, but we're that little light at the end of the tunnel that people look forward to come to, to get prayer or talk to an elder, or even go there just to be supported, through us, because we are like an extension of their family.
Thank you. Nawishtamai, one more question, and it's really in line with the others that we've seen so far. What can people do to support your mission? Can they volunteer? How else can they help?
Well, after COVID, whenever COVID ends, we do accept volunteers. You'd have to reach out to Colleen Chalmers at Chief Seattle Club. She's in charge of that. We do have, days where we need it, like traditional foods day. Every quarter we have a day where we serve our traditional foods, whether it be coastal or plateau. We get those traditional foods in, and it's a pretty big event. And, we appreciate anybody who wants to come down and help serve food. Even for any of the holidays, we try and do, something special for everyone. So if you wanted to reach out to her, it'd be just colleen.chalmers@chiefseattleclub.org.
Fantastic. This last question, I feel like you've already addressed, but we've got a couple of minutes left, so I'll put it back out. Are there any other ways that Chief Seattle Club advocates for your members with our local governments?
Oh, many ways. If it's, I know, like I work with ICWA, Indian Child Welfare Act. I do the staffing with them to try and see, like, what are the gaps, why is our Indigenous children, stuck in the system so long? And I'm also on the executive committee for Mockingbird Society as vice president. And, a lot of us are on different boards and different policies to try and make sure that, if we're not at the table, we're going to find a seat and we're going to sit at that table so we can represent our community, represent other communities of color if they're not there as well. So I really feel like we do a ton of racial equity work. We do a ton of policy work. And we also work with in Olympia with the governance committee on different policies for tribes as well.
Thank you, Nawishtamai. Alberto asks one more question, and this will be our closing question before I pass it back to you for a moment. What are the biggest challenges you're facing during this pandemic?
I would say, you know, we're a community of like being connected and not knowing where our members are, or not knowing, you know, how everyone's doing because we don't see them daily. You know, I think that is a concern in trying to figure out, you know, what are the other places that they're at and trying to make sure that they're safe.
Thank you. Well, before I read my closing script, Lisa, Nawishtamai, any closing words for our audience?
If you guys have any further questions, you know, Chief Seattle Club, we love educating. We love using any type of tools to educate about Indigenous homelessness, because, you know, we work with intergenerational trauma, and we try to let other providers know that our trauma is a little bit different because, you know, our trauma existed on this land, and it continues to perpetuate to this day. So if anyone wants more education on it, please reach out to us. You know, if you're working with American Indians or Alaska Natives, we would love to help you out. If you feel like there's some gaps that you're missing within your organization, that you could be serving them better.
And I would just say that on this issue of homelessness, that we need all hands on deck. So if there's anyone who is wanting to get involved in any way, whether that's volunteering, donating, policy advocates, we need it all in order to tackle this issue. It's going to take all of us. And so I would just urge anyone who has the slightest inclination to just get involved in whatever way you can, because like I said, it's gonna take all of us, and we're stronger when we work on it together.
Agreed.
Such a great point. Thank you, Nawishtamai and Lisa, for your work and your dedication to help meet the needs of so many who are being hit both now by the economic impacts of the pandemic and before and after, as we find that new normal. Thank you also to our viewers for your questions and supporting the community through your donations to United Way's Community Relief Fund. We hope you'll join us next week when we talk about how the community is working to meet the growing needs around hunger in Seattle and King County. We'll be joined by Yuri Kim, Board Chair of the Hunger Intervention Program and Senior Director of Ending Homelessness and Poverty at United Way, Lauren McGowan. You can watch our live stream every Wednesday at noon on our YouTube channel and learn more about what United Way and our partners are doing to address critical needs head on right now at uwkc.org. Thank you all.